There's a moment in every girl's life when she looks in the mirror and quietly wonders if she's doing enough for herself. Not for anyone else, not for social expectations, not for trends that change with every passing season, but for her own body, her own energy, her own sense of confidence. It often begins as a whisper in the back of the mind, but over time it grows into something much louder. A desire to feel stronger, lighter, more vibrant, and more at peace within her own skin. But here's what most people never say out loud. Beauty and fitness are not destinations you arrive at. They are not transformations that happen overnight. They are quiet, daily conversations you have with yourself through the way you eat, the way you move, the way you rest, and even the way you think about your own reflection. And once you understand that, everything starts to feel less like pressure and more like possibility. There's something powerful about starting with how you treat your mornings, not in a rigid or forced way, but in a way that feels like you are gently returning to yourself. The body wakes up carrying the weight of yesterday, both physically and emotionally, and it responds beautifully when treated with care. A calm start, a moment of stillness, even a simple stretch that reminds your muscles they are alive again, can shift the entire tone of the day ahead. Hydration plays a silent but essential role in this beginning. Many people underestimate how much the body relies on internal balance to maintain glowing skin, steady energy, and overall wellness. When the body is replenished early, everything from focus to digestion to skin clarity begins to align more naturally. It is not a miracle solution, but a foundation that supports everything else. Movement is another form of self-respect that often gets misunderstood. It is not about punishment or chasing an unrealistic image. It is about reconnecting with the body in a way that feels alive rather than forced. When movement becomes enjoyable, something shifts internally. The body stops feeling like something to fix and starts feeling like something to care for. A simple walk, a gentle flow of stretching, or any activity that brings lightness to the mind can create a ripple effect throughout the entire day. And then there is nourishment, which is often surrounded by confusion and unrealistic expectations. True nourishment is not about restriction. It is about listening. The body speaks constantly through cravings, energy levels, and mood changes. When those signals are ignored, imbalance follows. When they are respected, clarity returns. Food becomes less about rules and more about support. It becomes a way to honor your energy rather than control it. But beauty is never only physical. It extends into how you think about yourself when no one is watching. There are moments when self-perception becomes clouded by comparison. Scrolling through images, seeing carefully curated lives, and silently measuring yourself against them can create distance between who you are and who you think you should be. What is often forgotten is that those images are fragments, not full stories. Real life exists beyond the frame, in the unfiltered moments where growth, doubt, and progress all coexist. When you begin to step back from comparison, something softens inside. You start noticing your own progress more clearly, the small improvements in strength, the subtle changes in energy, the quiet confidence that builds when you show up for yourself consistently. These are the things that truly define transformation, even though they are rarely visible at first glance. Midway through this journey, it becomes clear that consistency is not about perfection. It is about returning again and again, even after days that feel unbalanced or unproductive. There is a misconception that fitness and beauty routines must be flawless to be effective. In reality, what matters most is not intensity, but continuity. The willingness to begin again without judgment is where real growth lives. And in those moments when motivation fades, discipline alone is not always the answer. Sometimes what carries you forward is compassion. The same kindness you would offer someone you care about deeply is the same kindness you deserve from yourself. That shift in mindset changes everything. It turns effort into care rather than obligation. As time passes, another layer of transformation begins to reveal itself. Confidence is not something that arrives suddenly. It builds quietly through repeated choices that align with your well-being. It shows up in how you carry yourself, how you speak to yourself, and how you respond when things do not go as planned. Skin begins to reflect more than just physical care. It reflects stress, rest, emotions, and balance. When life becomes more aligned internally, the outward glow often follows naturally. Sleep becomes not just rest, but repair. Moments of pause become not just breaks, but restoration. Even breathing deeply becomes a reminder that you are present, alive, and capable of starting again at any moment. There is also something deeply empowering about learning to slow down. Modern life often encourages speed, constant activity, and endless productivity, but the body and mind are not machines. They thrive in rhythm, not in chaos. Slowing down does not mean losing progress. It means creating space for sustainability, clarity, and long-term balance. And within that space, self-care becomes more than a concept. It becomes a lived experience. It shows up in the way you choose rest without guilt. It shows up in how you set boundaries around your energy. It shows up in the way you choose yourself even when external pressures suggest otherwise. As this journey continues, there is a quiet realization that beauty is not about becoming someone else. It is about returning to yourself in a more intentional way. Fitness is not about chasing an ideal. It is about building a relationship with your body that feels supportive and lasting. Near the end of this reflection, there is a deeper understanding that everything is connected. The way you move influences the way you think. The way you think influences the way you feel. The way you feel influences the way you show up in the world. Nothing exists in isolation. It all forms a continuous loop of energy and awareness. And perhaps the most important truth of all is this: you do not need to wait for a perfect version of yourself to begin caring for your body or embracing your beauty. You start exactly where you are, with what you have, in the moment you are already living. Because so many people spend years believing they need to become someone else before they are worthy of care. They tell themselves they will start eating better once life becomes less busy. They will exercise once they have more time. They will feel confident once they lose weight, change their appearance, or finally reach some invisible destination they have created in their minds. But life has a quiet way of reminding us that there will always be another goal, another expectation, another reason to delay beginning. The perfect moment rarely arrives. What truly changes everything is realizing that growth does not start after transformation. Growth is transformation. It begins in the smallest choices that often seem too ordinary to matter. Choosing water instead of another unhealthy habit. Choosing movement even when motivation feels distant. Choosing rest when your body asks for it. Choosing kindness in the way you speak to yourself. These choices may appear small on their own, but over time, they begin to build something powerful. They create trust between you and yourself. And perhaps that trust is where real beauty begins. Not in perfection, not in comparison, not in becoming a completely different person, but in waking up each day and quietly saying to yourself, I am worth showing up for today. Because every journey becomes easier when you stop waiting to become enough and start realizing that you already are. Because transformation is not a sudden event, it is a quiet unfolding. And as this journey unfolds, it leaves behind a lasting question that lingers gently in the mind. What would change in your life if you began treating yourself with the same patience and respect you so easily offer to others? Because growth rarely announces itself in dramatic ways. Most of the time, it happens quietly, in moments so ordinary that they almost go unnoticed. It lives in the mornings when you choose to get out of bed even when energy feels low. It exists in the decision to take care of yourself even when no one else is paying attention. It appears in the tiny choices that seem insignificant at first, but slowly begin changing the direction of your life. There will be days when progress feels invisible, days when you look at yourself and wonder if anything is really changing at all. The mind has a way of focusing on what is missing rather than noticing what is already improving. It can convince you that because the transformation is not obvious, it is not happening, but that is rarely true. Think about the way nature works. Trees do not grow overnight. Flowers do not bloom the moment they are planted. Seasons themselves do not rush from one to another. Everything unfolds according to its own rhythm, and perhaps human growth is no different. There is no reward for rushing your journey. There is no prize waiting for becoming exhausted in the process of trying to become someone else. Real change was never supposed to feel like punishment. It was always meant to feel like returning to a version of yourself that existed long before doubt, pressure, and comparison started speaking louder than your own voice. And maybe that is why self-care becomes something deeper over time. It stops being about routines or checklists. It becomes a quiet form of self-respect. It becomes the decision to listen when your body needs rest, To pause when your mind feels overwhelmed. To keep going when your spirit still believes there is something beautiful ahead. Because the truth is, you are not starting from nothing. You are starting from experience, from lessons you have already learned, from strength you may not even realize you have built. Every difficult moment, every setback, every time you thought you could not continue but somehow did, has already shaped you into someone stronger than you were before. And maybe that strength does not always look powerful from the outside. Sometimes strength simply looks like trying again. Sometimes it looks like choosing hope. Sometimes it looks like showing up for yourself one more time. So as this journey continues, carry this reminder with you. You do not need to have everything figured out. You do not need perfect habits, perfect confidence, or a perfect life. You only need to keep moving. Even slowly. Even quietly. Even one step at a time. If this message resonated with you in any way, take a moment to share your thoughts, join the conversation, express what stood out to you, and let your voice be part of this space. And if you want more content that speaks to growth, confidence, and everyday transformation, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay connected for what comes next.